Hey guys, this is Friday's video. We're at the end of week 4, which is good news and bad news because your paper is due today at 11:59 p.m. However, the good news is this is a revision-based class, so you will have some time to revise whatever draft you turn in today. So I'll take the weekend to give you some feedback, hopefully to expand sections, help you gear yourself more toward analysis, and overall just generally ease any panic or confusion or frustration that you have with the qualitative research paper specifically. So I'm just going to run down a couple of things in terms of the overall class, and then in this video specifically we are going to talk about several things. So I'm going to show you the submission portal for the qualitative research paper. It's the exact same way that you have been submitting your other papers, but I want to make sure that there's no confusion there. Discussion 15, we'll take a look at that. Read pages in JAC 41 and 42. This is about titling. If you're short on time, skip this reading for today because we will come back to titling for the op-ed unit. So just focus on those drafts for now. The integrating sources review at the end of the video today, we will go over that very quickly. And before that, I do have a list of questions for your discussion section, which will hopefully help you generate more material. Because some of you have been emailing me and asking for, saying that you're stuck with the discussion section. It is the hardest part because it's asking for basically strict analysis to help you make connections with your findings. So again, once I get a draft of those, I can better help you put forth your ideas and put together the pieces of the paper, etc. So for right now, just focus on that draft, stay calm, and we'll get through this together. Okay, for the rest of the course, next week is a very short paper and it is more traditional. It's an opinion-based paper, so we will introduce that. I will introduce that on Monday, and then it will be due that Friday. It's very short. It's like 700 words maximum. 700 to 1,000, sorry, minimum, but if you go by the minimum, then 700 words maximum. So, and then the final portfolio, this whole week, you have 2 discussions due, and these are basically like, what did you learn in the class? Not super difficult if you do it, and you meet the limit of the words, then you'll get 4 out of 4 on those. Your final portfolio is due at midnight that Friday, so you'll have your feedback for your qualitative research paper as soon as possible. Normally I try to get all of your feedback by Sunday, so then you'll have that. And then the op-ed feedback you'll definitely have back by Sunday, giving you 2 weeks to revise the qualitative research paper and then a week to revise the op-ed, in addition to whatever you may want to revise from midterm. So you'll have basically this whole week will be geared toward revision, and I will be available for questions, etc. And you won't really have videos to watch here. You might have 2 to watch for the whole week. So I really just am trying to carve out some time for you during this week to work on your revision. So keep that in mind. A lot of you are kind of panicking, saying that you expect to have a perfect draft the first go around. That's not expected. That's not realistic. So these are new types of papers, new genres. Just try to get some words on the page, and my job is to then come in and help guide you toward different ideas, or to develop those ideas or words, etc., and help you form a stronger paper all around and make you a better writer. So again, just stay cool. Keep sending me your questions. That's fine. But there's no real need to panic. This is a summer class. It's English 102. It's not going to ruin your life. Okay, so that's my don't panic speech. Hopefully it's put some of you at ease. And then of course revision. You'll have the final portfolio will have all of the papers and a reflective cover memo, just like you did for midterm. I will talk in the first video on Monday about what goes into the final, and I'll make that video available the week before. So if you have some free time that weekend, you can definitely watch it. Okay, so for today, you guys have discussion 15, which is due by 6 p.m. and it's just page 79 in JAC. Most of you did pretty well on page 78, so page 79 is actually a little bit easier than page 78. So you can do the same thing, fill it in by hand, take a picture. I don't care, just get the answers to me in some way. And then the submission portal for your qualitative research paper is, again, under coursework, papers. You go to the paper that we're working on, qualitative research paper. I believe I've showed this to you. And then here is the submission. It is now open. It was open yesterday. And I have some instructions here, 4 to 5 findings total, 2 answer findings, should not be represented visually, a couple of requirements here, minimum of 4 sources, etc. Okay, so this should all be clear. Again, if for some reason you haven't read this or haven't watched any of the videos and this is the first one that you are coming to, then newsflash, this is the qualitative research paper and these are all of the things required in it. Okay, so we'll go ahead and jump to the questions, and then we're going to skip again the titling lesson for today. I'll weave that into the op-ed week next week. And the integrating sources documents we'll save for last to make sure we have enough time. So the discussion section, I put a couple questions here to help you guys generate better material or just material for your discussion section, since some of you seemed a little stumped in your emails. So in this section, there are 2 main parts. So you have your findings section, which is just charts, graphs, bullet points. If you're doing an interview, which again is not required, but some of you have asked to do an interview, then you can put direct quotes from that interview in your findings section. In your discussion section, you then correlate 1-to-1, so it should be about a paragraph per finding. And in that paragraph, in your discussion, you should have a brief summary, 1 to 2 sentences of what does the audience need to know in terms of understanding the finding. So some of you have some pretty complicated tables. In the table, what does the audience need to know about the research or like the survey question that you asked, or the respondents' answers, etc. So just strict summary. You guys are experts at summary, so feel confident in the fact that you can summarize everything perfectly. Analysis is a bit harder, and a lot of you are doing a good job toward this. Here are a couple of questions to help you become better writers in terms of analysis. So, why is this information from the finding summary important to your study? Basically, you consciously chose to ask a certain question, and I tried to help you as much as possible with forming your survey questions. And then not only did you code the data from it after you collected it and did data analysis, you coded the data and you created a chart, graph, table, bullet point, whatever, out of this information. So why? Why was that important to represent this information visually? What is it telling you? Like, why is it important? Okay. Why is it important to your study? Is it important to your research question specifically? So at all times, you should kind of have the research question in the back of your mind. And that is the same thing that you would do for a thesis. So if you're writing like a typical 5-paragraph essay, you would have a thesis statement in your introduction, and then each paragraph should build upon that thesis statement. Like, otherwise there's no point for it to be in the essay. That's the same thing here, just with your findings in your discussion section. Okay, so use language like finding 3 shows that, or demonstrates that, or proves that. So these phrases here will help force you to do analysis. What does it show me? What does it show the audience? What does it demonstrate? What does it prove? Okay, what does it represent? So language like this will help you analyze your findings a little bit more in depth. You could also ask, did the finding go against any assumptions you've made earlier in the paper? Did it go against any hypotheses that you came up with for your research question? So a lot of you have topics. Remember in a couple of videos ago, I said, make sure you don't have a clear answer to your research question yet, because that should arise from the data. So here, what assumptions did you have? Or you probably had some form of an answer, or you thought the data would go one way or another. Is anything surprising here with the data? Did it go the same way that you thought? Did it not? Why would that be significant? Why is it important to note this? The next question, can you compare it to any other findings? So this is where your findings might overlap a little bit. They might bleed into the next paragraph. Would that be useful to demonstrate something? So finding 2 and 3, Finding 2, you can summarize it, answer a few of these questions about finding 2, and then say finding 2, when placed against finding 3, demonstrates something different. Like maybe your findings contradict one another. That would be interesting to point out. And then in your future work section, which your future work section is basically like what you would have done different. My students last semester called it, quote, the regrets section. Would you have asked different survey questions, etc.? Don't do that in the discussion or the finding section. That's saved for future work. Okay, but if your data contradicts, why might it contradict? This is a place where you speculate on that. You can say, perhaps this data is contradictory because, etc. And then the last one, does the finding help you arrive at a consensus about your research? So the consensus paragraph, as I've mentioned in the conclusion video, should be a nice paragraph at the end, like a conclusion. It should say, therefore, overall, the data points to X. And that's an answer to your research question. Does this finding help you arrive at that consensus? We don't know what the consensus is yet, but you can say perhaps this will demonstrate that technology use is not completely negative as previously stigmatized by the media or by older generations or whatever. So again, I'm going to put this online, and I hope that it is helpful. It helps generate material, clear up some stuff, and it's completely fine if you turn in a draft that is not fully formed. I'm not expecting these to be perfect. It's kind of the myth of the perfect first draft. That's not a thing. So just do your best with it, and I'm going to write comments and probably ask you a few of these questions in your paper comments in order to help you generate length. So don't freak out and think that you have to answer all these questions and include them, because I know it's Friday, and this is for Friday's video, and you probably already done a lot of the work, or you should have already done a lot of the work. So this is something that you should just hold on to for revision week, which is week 6. Okay, the last thing we'll do in this video, which is a little less important, is make sure you guys are familiar with integrating sources. So if you're very confident with this, you can go ahead and close out the video. That's fine. But because I've also mentioned this before, I've given you templates online to show you how to quote others. But you should have, again, 4 sources minimum in your qualitative research paper. They go in the introduction and or the discussion sections, and I've put a couple of videos online which show you how people have used research really well in the introduction and discussion sections, and also you have 4 sample papers online which demonstrate this as well. Okay, so here are some templates. Again, there are several parts to introducing or including quotes. There are 3 main parts. There's the introduction. We need to know who is talking, why they have credibility. X from the university of whatever states, says, argues, discerns, claims. There are a lot of different ways to say explains, suggests, in X's perspective, when X concurs, when she notes, etc. So that's the first part, introduce the quote. The second part is to put the quote or the paraphrase itself. So if it's a direct quote, aka word for word from the source, then you need to put direct quotation marks around it. And that it should be clear. If you have questions about that, I don't think we have any second language learners, which typically struggle more with including quotes because culturally quoting is different in various regions of the world. However, I believe that you guys are doing a pretty good job with it. And then the third part is the analysis part, which I kind of just mentioned. Why is this important? How does it connect to your paper? So here, in other words, X asserts, again, these are just more templates. X is insisting that, etc. There are a ton of ways for you to include research with these attributive tags. So again, do your best with the papers. Don't put so much pressure on yourself that you are paralyzed with fear with this paper. It's not that high stakes. So please keep sending me your questions. I want to be as helpful as possible, and we will get through it together.